can hear the wind.
And hey, everyone, Chris Perkins informing us we can't hear the wind. Can we hear the wind, Perk?
We can hear the wind.
We're on. There you go. You're gonna live from windy South Florida. It's episode 481 of the All Dolphins podcast on this Monday, March 24th, 2025. He is Chris Perkins from the South Florida Sun Sentinel. How are you, Perk?
I'm good, man. It's I'm in the Windy City, North Bay Village.
And I'm in the arid Miami Lakes area. So there you go.
Yeah. How about that?
Actually just got back from Orlando for a weekend trip with the fam, where I experienced two firsts this weekend, which always makes it a good weekend. Number one, and if you can tell me if you had ever either experienced or heard of it, either of those. Rode a roller coaster standing up.
I've seen that. I would not do it.
You would not do it? Oh, it's
no.
And I'm not a daredevil. Give me any roller coaster whatsoever. Like my wife, who likes that. I'm a little bit more chicken spit. If you want, if you want to go there, you can say that. Not quite as daring as she is, but that one was like, it intrigued me, and it was cool. It's called the Pipeline. It was cool. And then the other thing is, saw a dolphin, which a dolphin type, which is called a commersum, and it's basically the coloring is like that of an orca.
No.
Yeah. That's my thought.
Interesting.
Yeah, very cool.
Yeah.
Very cool. But enough about me. We're here to talk about the Miami Dolphins. Not a ton of news in terms of player acquisition since we last spoke. There was some news involving a former Dolphin, Jerome Baker, who signed with the hometown Cleveland Browns. Good for Jerome Baker, which is not going to be on his fourth team in a little more than a year because, of course, after being released by the Dolphins last offseason, signing with Seattle Seahawks, was traded to the Tennessee Titans halfway through the season. And it was interesting what happened in Seattle last year because they weren't happy with their linebackers, so they released Tyrell Dodson in the middle of the year, and they traded Jerome Baker, who were two of their starters, and both with Dolphin connections, of course, Tyrell Dodson back in Miami after re-signing as a free agent. On Monday, we heard from 7 of the team's 12 free agent acquisitions, and those were Zach Wilson, Nick Westbrook-Ikhine, Pharaoh Brown, Larry Borum, Ifeatu Melifonwu, Willie Gay Jr., and I'm going to forget the 7th one with apologies.
Larry Borum? Did you say Borum?
I did say Larry Borum. That's bad on me.
Gay.
I did say Zach Wilson. KJ Britt, the linebacker, coming over from the Tampa Bay. My apologies, KJ, for not remembering you. First off, Perk, anything stand out to you in the conversations with the 7 free agents?
We confirmed 2 nicknames, NWI and Iffy.
Iffy. I love Iffy. I love Iffy.
Kind of like that, right? Iffy.
Oh, yeah.
So, yeah, that's for Melifonwu and obviously Nick Westbrook-Ikhine.
Exactly.
So, yeah, you know what? I do think that, on a more serious analytical note, a couple of my takeaways were the Dolphins continue to fill roles. And tomorrow we're going to get, who is the running back? His name escaped, Alexander Madison.
We're getting the other 5 tomorrow.
Yes. And so, he fills a role. NWI fills a role. KJ Britt fills a role. And so I like that. One thing that I'll say about NWI, who I believe you said was your best signing, right? 32 receptions, 497 yards for Tennessee last year, 9 touchdowns. 6 of those touchdowns in the red zone. 5 of those touchdowns came on third downs. And also, we talk about third downs. He had 11 receptions for 209 yards on third downs. So when we talk about a red zone target, when we talk about a third down target, NWI fits the bill. He can also block 6'2", 211. So I really like going a little bit deeper with him and talking to him and finding out that, yes, he does have a physical, aggressive mentality, which also fits with a lot of the signees they had last year from Aaron Brewer, Jonnu Smith, Calais Campbell. Guys along those lines. And when you talk about redoing a team, that's one thing that has to be redone with this team is an aggressive physical attitude. And for the second straight year, it appears that they got role players who have that kind of mentality. I applaud the Dolphins for that.
Yeah, except it didn't really materialize in 2024. Now, did it?
I thought it did, actually. I mean, look,
It was
they
still
were.
booty cheeks on 3rd and 1, 4th and 1. I mean, to be
Well,
honest.
yes, but you did have the number 4 defense, and you were more aggressive and more physical than you were in 2023. You still got a ways to go, but I do think that, look, considering you were without Bradley Chubb and Jalen Phillips for most of the year, two of the guys who you would expect to lead the charge as far as being aggressive and physical. I thought they rebounded fairly well in a respectable fashion, keeping things in perspective. They aren't a physical team. I thought they were more physical in 2024 than in 2023. I would hope that they're going to be more physical in 2025 than they were in 2024.
And see, to me, the physicality thing, I always attach it more to the offense than the defense, because the defense basically is more reactive.
Yes,
It's more reactive than it is on offense, where you're the one who's basically dictating the play. You're the one who's deciding what play it's going to be. And what you are on defense is basically, more protecting against a big play, or you're ultra aggressive and going straight after the quarterback, which personally is my preference because you create more havoc. Because here's a question I would have for you before we get back into the discussion regarding the free agents. Dolphins were 4th, as you mentioned, in total yards allowed on defense last year, but they also had 15 takeaways or 16. I don't remember the exact
16.
number, and the sack number was low. Or do you prefer 2023, where they were 10th in total yards allowed, but had 28 takeaways and set a team record for sacks? And then, hold on one second before you answer. Then you have to throw in the caveat of no Chubb last year, Jalen Phillips gone after 4 games, whereas in 2023 the injuries on defense happened toward like the end of the year, the last 3 or 4 weeks.
They did. Well, what I would prefer is a mix of that. Number one, I want a defense that is effective. And so that means not allowing 48 points at Buffalo, whatever the reason, not allowing 56 points at Baltimore for whatever the reason. But aside from that, I want a physical defense. I want a physical, aggressive defense, one that is capable of taking, you can dictate the terms of the game, meaning we're shutting down your receivers, or we're coming at your quarterback, we're putting pressure on you from the middle, from the edge, with a blitz, whatever. You know how to take charge of the game, like Philly, Baltimore, San Francisco, some defenses like that. I don't see that from the Dolphins. I do see improvement in certain places and certain areas, but the Dolphins aren't there yet. They can't dictate terms for 17 games. For 3, 4, 7 games, they can. I like the path of the aggression. When you ask me what I prefer a winning defense. So again, it's kind of I know it's not a factor. I know it, but look, it's not a factor of, I want the aggressive defense. I want the defense that wins. I want you to be a winning defense and an aggressive defense. But if you ask me, look, I don't know that San Francisco's defense has been that aggressive over the last 3 or 4 years, but they can dictate terms of a game. They can say, we're coming at you from the edge. We're coming at you from the middle. We're shutting down your receivers. That's what I want to see from the Dolphins.
Okay. And this is where I'm going to make my argument here before the jury. And you tell me this is not a slam dunk verdict where you agree with me. If we look at the 2 games of the past 5 years against Josh Allen, the Buffalo Bills, the team the Dolphins can't get it past to win the AFC East, they have 1 win in their past 12 against Buffalo, and they have another one. They have a couple where they came close. The ones that they came close, we'll start with the win. They were outgained 497 to 212. Do you remember that game?
Yep.
Why did they win? Because Buffalo left points on the field the entire day, and the Dolphins got a touchdown on a 6-yard drive after a sack strip that Melvin Ingram recovered.
Yep.
They lost 34-31, almost win with Skylar Thompson, the quarterback, in the playoffs. Why? Because they had like 3 takeaways, including Zach Sealer's fumble return for a touchdown.
Right.
And then they barely lost the 2023 season finale at home against the Bills for the AFC's title. Why? Because they had, I know they had 2 picks against Josh Allen in the first half. And they had a 4th down stuff too. So to me, it's about, I would prefer big plays on defense as opposed to that yardage was great last year. 4th, give me the 28 takeaways that they got a couple of years ago. And that's my argument.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Because it's the takeaways lead to victories. It's not hollow numbers. And I preach against hollow numbers, especially with the Dolphins offense, that being number 6 in rushing and, Raheem with the 18 rushing touchdowns, but only 1 came against a playoff team. Those are hollow numbers. What you're talking about are meaningful numbers. I would much prefer what you're saying.
And a lot of it also, the quality teams are very good at situational football.
That is a huge thing with me. Huge.
And the Chiefs could not be more of the poster children for that.
Yes.
And you want to talk last year that this is a team that, if we're going to be honest about it, had 0 business getting anywhere in the Super Bowl.
Yes.
And they got there because they were so good situationally.
Yes.
And that you can't measure that with numbers other than you crunch everything the last 3 minutes of a game and all that. And this is where KC always came through. This is where the Dolphins have fallen way short. Okay, let's go back to our original discussion.
Yes.
We were talking about this before I hit the record button. One of the things that stuck out to me in the Zoom media sessions with the 7 players on Monday is the fact that 2 of them admitted, which is not something you see very often, that basically they signed with the Dolphins because they had no other offers. And I'm talking about Willie Gay Jr., the linebacker, who actually has played some really good football in his career at times with the Kansas City Chiefs. And then we're talking about tight end Pharaoh Brown coming over from the Seattle Seahawks. Generally speaking, you're going to hear about, I really like the organization. It's a winning culture and all that. I'm excited to play for Coach McDaniel. And sometimes that absolutely can be the case. But there are a lot of times teams sign with a team because that's the one team that called. And literally, who was it who said, Pharaoh Brown said, beggars can't be choosers.
Yeah.
And Willie Gay said, I didn't choose the Dolphins. The Dolphins chose me.
Yeah.
That one's a little surprising to me that no other team wanted to go after Willie Gay, who did not, by all measures, have a very good season with the Saints. One of the lowest ranks Pro Football Focus linebackers, if you believe in that metric. I reached out to a buddy of mine who covers the Saints. I asked him if the PFF numbers were fair about Gay, and he told me no. Didn't expound, but so I think that could be a good under the radar because, as I said, he has played some good football in his career.
He has, and he's one of those guys who brings that lunch pail mentality that I like. It was interesting hearing Pharaoh Brown and Willie Gay say that. And, you might be able to throw Liam Eichenberg on that list also, that nobody else wanted him. And so you would have 3 Dolphin signings that maybe nobody else wanted. But I don't really care. What I care about is, do they fill a role with the Dolphins? And I think Willie Gay can. I think Pharaoh Brown can. I think Eichenberg can. None of them as number 1 starters. Even Pharaoh is going to have to earn some playing time with Julian Hill in there. But they're all veteran players who, if you tap them on the shoulder, they can probably hold their own for, 3 or 4 weeks. It's not always going to be pretty. We've seen Liam Eichenberg out there. It's not always going to be pretty, but, you need guys like that. So while, neither Bell nor Brown I expect to be a, frontline, every down guy, if they can fill their role, Pharaoh Brown as a blocking tight end and Willie Gay. Did I say Bill? Willie Gay. I didn't say Bill. I don't know why. I don't know where the hell that came from. And Willie Gay, if he can just be a physical presence against the run, they've done their jobs, they filled their roles, and that's what I'm concerned with more so than, nobody wanted me or 17 teams wanted me. I don't care. Fill your role with the Dolphins. Do your job here, and that will be enough for the Dolphins.
No, that's fair. But I bring it up to me as I've done in the past with other guys, just to temper expectations.
Yes.
Like the hope is that they fill a role.
Yes.
They're not signed to be frontline players or starters.
Right.
The hope is that they fill a role and they do it fairly well. But if they don't, you can look back at this offseason and understand that these were not players who were in very high demand. That's all. And I do the same thing. Like, I know we all get excited when the Dolphins sign a big name, like in October, and the guy hasn't been in the league for 2 years. I remember there was a wide receiver from Florida who had come sometime with the Cleveland Browns. I don't remember his name off the top of my head. And a lot of Dolphin fans were like, oh, he could really make an impact. And I'm like, dude, we're like, simmer down. And he wound up never playing for the Dolphins.
Yeah.
So, and another one, Anthony Schwartz. I mean, he comes with the Dolphins. Whoa, he's got the track speed and all that. He could really help out. Well, again, especially if you look at the circumstances, if a guy's available after the season has started, there's usually a reason for that.
Yes, Chase Claypool.
Chase Claypool, that was correct. The dude was traded twice in 3 years. There's a reason for that.
Yep.
So it's not coincidence. And then I mean to poo-poo on the acquisitions. For the most part, the Dolphins got depth players. They really need for James Daniels to be a stud. It would be nice if Fatu Melifonwu also really produced, and I'm going to get to him next. Because he was asked about his role, about the idea of starting. First of all, he said starting is very important to him. And he was asked whether he'd been given any sort of indication. He was like, well, I can't say too much. And then he kind of sort of, if you read between the lines, I mean, sure sounds like somebody who's going to start. And if you look at it, I mean, Dolphins started Javon Holland, Jordan Poyer last year. Javon Holland's already gone to the Giants. They're not re-signing Jordan Poyer unless I don't know what I'm talking about or major surprise occurs. So that means you need 2 starters. Who else would it be? Elijah Campbell, Patrick McMorris, Ashton Davis, the fellow free agent signing, who was mostly a special teams player with the Jets. No, it kind of screams Melifonwu, who, by the way, as he indicated, has some experience with one of the Dolphins DB coaches, Brian Duker, from their time together in Detroit. And in fact, it was Duker who helped Melifonwu make the transition from cornerback, which he played at Syracuse, to safety. So would you expect Melifonwu to be a starter for this team?
I guess so. And one of the things with me is that who's going to be playing beside him, because Melifonwu by himself is not an anchor. He's not a safety who you think, well, he can get everybody lined up and he can do all of this. A rookie is not either. But I would hope that if you get the rookie starter back there, that maybe it's Nick Emanwori from South Carolina, maybe it's Malachi Starks from Georgia. So you would have a take charge safety. I don't trust Melifonwu's talent as if he's your lead guy. He's not Javon Holland carrying Jordan Poyer. This is not Javon Holland and Deshaun Elliott. Like, this is going to be Jordan Poyer and a lesser Jordan Poyer. I don't like that. So, I'm uncomfortable. I'm uncomfortable right there until I see Melifonwu out there actually performing and making plays. But I guess he'll be a starter. But right now, I'm uncomfortable with that idea because I think there's a good chance he's your best safety on the roster, and I'm uncomfortable. Now he is. Well, right now, even after the draft. Even after the draft, there's a chance. I mean, if you don't get a safety in the first round, there's guys like the Virginia safety, Jonas Sanker, who's the Oklahoma kid, Billy Bowman, who I saw both of them at the Senior Bowl. They're like 3rd or 4th round guys. Well, if you go guard first round, D tackle second round, these are the guys that you're looking. Well, I'm just saying. You're
not going guard first round.
Okay, if you go D tackle first round, guard second round. But like, my question is, where are you getting this safety to start beside Melifonwu? If you go D tackle first round, guard second round, you're down to a 3rd round safety beside Melifonwu with Patrick McMorris and Elijah Campbell backing them up. So there's a long way to go. I'm just saying, you asked me, do I think he's going to be a starter? I'm uncomfortable with that idea until I see him out there making plays, because if he's safety number one, good luck.
Or he becomes safety number 2 if they pick a first or second round pick.
That's what I was saying.
And by the way, I kept going like this because to me right now, on March 24th, cornerback's got to be the pick at 13, unless there's nobody worthy. I mean, Will Johnson and Jahdae Barron, two guys that kind of scream, "Hi, Dolphins, pick me," if either is available at 13. I'm not liking the guard. I see Tyler Booker's name. I see Kelvin Banks Jr.'s name. Armand Membu, by all appearances, is going to be gone before that. Will Campbell, more than likely, is going to be gone before that. To me, cornerback right now is an absolutely screaming need, whatever you want to call it. Even more so than safety. I like his upside, Dave. He's very, very intriguing to me. I did not like him admitting that when asked about his various injuries throughout his NFL career, that early on in his career, that maybe he didn't take care of his business the way he should have. Do not like to hear that. Hopefully, well, because again, Bill Parcells, they don't bark as a puppy. They're not going to bark as a dog. Some players can change. For other players, it can be, the complacency sets in too quickly. That's a little bit of a concern for me. But
David Wilson Jr. changed, right? Well, if you believe the linebacker from Tennessee that Vrabel named, right? I'm botching names.
Who are you talking about?
The linebacker they got from Tennessee, who Mike Vrabel said was
David Long Jr.
David Long. Why did I say? Dude, David Wilson is the writer for the Herald. I am botching names today, and he's not even a junior. David Long Jr. I'm sorry. Wow, why am I botching names?
Yeah, he got hit his second year because he wasn't playing well.
Right, but that wasn't his injury thing got corrected. If you believe what Vrabel said, that he didn't train properly in the offseason, so he had soft tissue injuries. That wasn't a case with the Dolphins. So I mean, he did have those hamstring injuries in training camp, but he was usually out there playing though. I'm just saying that I think that if you believe what Vrabel said, I think that David Long Jr. changed. He didn't lose his job because of soft tissue injuries. He lost his job because he wasn't doing his job. He wasn't filling gaps.
Okay. Like I said, it's still a little bit of a red flag for me. I really wish I hadn't heard that. I mean, again, I will never blame or fault the player for being honest and all that. And he fessed up to it. And maybe the corner has been turned by the cornerback turned safety.
There you go. I like that.
The other thing of note, which was a question that was kind of raised all of my eyebrows a little bit, asked Zach Wilson about whether he considers himself a journeyman.
After two, I guess 3 jobs, but still, that's not,
Yeah. My definition of a journeyman is a guy who's been around for 10 years and he's never been more than a backup. That's so.
And he's been with like 6 teams. He's never with anybody for longer than 2 years or something. Yeah.
Okay. Brock Osweiler was a journeyman, and I don't mind using the name. Brock Osweiler was a journeyman,
and not an especially happy person.
No. He had some interesting things to say about what he learned in Denver, basically processing, pocket awareness.
Yeah.
And maybe one of the best parts of all is he learned that he needs to basically integrate himself into the team more than he did in New York and spend more time in the locker room to build some rapport with his teammates. And I think part of his issue with New York, it wasn't just the fact that he had problems on the field, but also I don't think he came off particularly well a lot of times in postseason game press conferences. There was one, I know they lost like 10-3 against New England when the defense played lights out and they lost like on a punt return, like in the final minute, and the offense did nothing all day. And I think the question was like, do you feel like, I don't remember exactly how it was. Do you feel like you want to apologize to the defense, for not helping him out more than that? And his answer was very dismissive, regardless of what you think of the question, it was like, no, that didn't come across very well.
Yep. With Zach, the thing that really worries me, and he didn't play last season. And so we don't know. This was the thing with Skylar Thompson. We don't know what he's going to look like when he gets into a game. We know what he looked like the last time we saw him in 2023, and it wasn't very good because he was with the Jets. But I'm a little concerned by that. I would have liked to have seen somebody who had been in the action more recently. I don't know if that was a factor with Skylar Thompson or not and his poor performance last season. But boy, I just wish somebody had some more recent game action. The other thing with Zach, I think this is going to be kind of a transition, and I guess he experienced some of it last year. Is being a backup, you come into the game at a stressful time quite often, and although Zach didn't come in last year, you think of the times that Dolphins backups have been in, and it's been after the Tua concussion in Cincinnati, and after the Tua concussion in Buffalo, and after the Tua hip injury in Houston. Green Bay, he didn't come. That was a Monday thing, that concussion. But you come into that game and guys are looking at you in the huddle like, can this dude get it done? Like, is he, and so that's a different type of stress that I bet Zach Wilson has never experienced in his career because he's been a starter. He's been a stud his whole life. And he would have had the opportunity in Denver. So that's the other thing, is that I would like to see Zach have some experience, some game experience as a backup. That's idealism. We don't have that, whatever, life goes on. But again, a guy who hasn't played in over a year and a guy who doesn't have experience entering a game in this particular role, I would like to have seen more. We can't, so we roll with it, but it's a concern of mine.
But does it make you queasy? It makes me a little bit crazy. The big difference between Zach Wilson and Skylar Thompson, who's now with the Pittsburgh Steelers, by the way, for those not aware,
yes,
is you're looking at a guy who has a lot more physical attributes
yep.
At his disposal to bail him out. But the decision making was poor with the Jets, the processing, as he mentioned, he looked like a lot of times. And there was a lot of Josh Rosen. I've said this before. I remember the first time Josh Rosen, watching him at a practice, throw the ball, and it's like, damn, that ball comes out of his hand impressively. I mean, that thing has got some zip coming out of there. And Zach Wilson's the same way. You all remember, was it either the combine or his pro day when he's coming out of the draft out of BYU? I mean, dude's got a live arm, and I mean, plus live arm. But you guys still got to know what you're doing in the pocket. That's part of the NFL, playing quarterback, and that's probably the most important thing. Speaking of quarterbacks, wow, I
haven't put this one together yet. I'm struggling.
No, I was about to go. Speaking of quarterbacks and processing in the pocket, and then I was going to bring up Ryan Tannehill, but that's okay. Because, yes, that was part of his issue at times with the Dolphins, because you may not be aware of this, but he played wide receiver at Texas A&M.
Really?
By the way, speaking of which, Kelly Mond won the starting job for his UFL team.
Oh, Kellen. Yeah.
Kelly Mond, sorry.
Yeah.
So anyway, back to Tannehill. Apparently that he has had discussions with the Minnesota Vikings about returning to the NFL as a backup to J.J. McCarthy. And for those wondering, well, he's never been a backup before. Yes, he was. When he left the Dolphins after being traded in the offseason of 2019, he was acquired by Tennessee to back up Marcus Mariota, who then struggled. Tannehill takes over and then has the best year of his career, makes the Pro Bowl. And then the Titans make the playoffs as a wild card. They go all the way to the AFC Championship game before they lose to Kansas City. And then the following 2 years, Tennessee wins the AFC South, flop in the playoffs, and Tannehill did not play well in either one of those playoff games. And then it went downhill, replaced by Will Levis eventually out of the NFL last year. And the word was always he's looking for the perfect situation. What that consists of, I don't know. Maybe he looks at Minnesota and thinks this is a first-round pick that they have. We didn't play last year because they had a torn ACL. Who knows if he's ready to come in and be a stud right away. Maybe Tannehill looks at it and says, I have a chance at some point to be the starter there. Who knows? But no, I wouldn't mind him being back in the NFL. I can't think of a Dolphin goes back earlier than Tannehill, who first joined the Dolphins in 2012, still in the NFL. I don't know if there's somebody out there who can put in the comments, but I'm not coming off.
The Dolphins quarterback?
Any position. Any Dolphin player.
Oh, from 2012?
Yeah. Who's still in the NFL.
Yeah. That's a good question. That's a good question. I saw your Tannehill story, and I agree. Good job. You know what? And here's what people forget is he was gonna be a backup to David Garrard. You remember his rookie year, except yes. Garrard injured his knee, and then it was between Tannehill and Matt Moore, and it was like, well, let's go with the rookie. We don't need to see Matt Moore anymore. So both of Tannehill's starting jobs came via injury to the starter. If I'm JJ McCarthy, I'm like knocking on wood. I'm saying get Tannehill the hell out of here, really, because this is probably going to work against me. But I do think that this is a perfect situation for Tannehill because you've got such a good defense supporting you, and you're throwing to Justin freaking Jefferson. So if I'm Tannehill, this is the situation for me that all the pressure is on this rookie. And if he doesn't come through or if he gets injured, then I step in there and I've got a good defense, a great defense, and I've got Justin Jefferson over here and Jordan Addison. I'm gonna look pretty good if I just. It's like handing off to Derrick Henry, right? Like, how can you mess that up?
And he didn't.
And he didn't. He did. Exactly. Although, if I'm not mistaken, I think Tannehill talked to a therapist after that AFC championship game. I think I remember hearing him say that because he threw a costly interception late in that game, and it took him a while to recover from that mentally. So I think in that offseason, he did talk to somebody, which is just a testament to this game, man. It's brutal in many ways, mentally and physically, and it leaves a mark. I guess Tannehill is okay. He played 2 more seasons. But great situation for Tannehill going to Minnesota. He will be making a wise decision.
If it materializes, as we keep waiting for Aaron Rodgers to decide on a new team, it could be the Pittsburgh Steelers, and if it is, Dolphins play the Steelers at Acrisure Stadium. I don't remember what it is.
Yeah, something like that.
It might be Three Rivers Stadium for me. For me, it's like. Let's close it up with this. Monday is the 3-year anniversary of the Dolphins signing Teron Armstead as a free agent, which comes one day after the 3-year anniversary of Tyreek Hill being acquired in that trade with the Kansas City Chiefs for 3 first-round picks. And we mentioned 5 overall draft picks.
Yes.
We mentioned Willie Gay Jr. before. He won Super Bowls with the Chiefs in 2022 and 2023. Goes to New Orleans, and then the Chiefs don't win the Super Bowl. So it was Willie Gay Jr. all along, wasn't it?
That's it. I mean, did anybody dispute that?
No, it's a very good point. Yeah. And then Tyreek had a tweet as a reply to the post about commemorating the 3-year anniversary of the trade, and said something. Oh, changed my life. Thank you. And it did. In terms of he became the absolute focal point of the offense, which he wasn't in KC because of Travis Kelce. Even though he was a big part of the offense also, it certainly changed his life financially because the Dolphins gave him a huge contract after acquiring him and then gave him a really nice extension or restructure last year. Wonder if deep down, though, he's got to say that publicly, if deep down there's a part of him that goes, still wish I were in KC.
He's got his ring, and he's got more stats, more fame, a higher profile. I think it's a trade that worked out great for both teams, the Dolphins and KC. Obviously, it worked out better for KC because you won 2 Super Bowls and went to a 3rd, and you're not missing Tyreek at all. But 5 for 1, that's a hefty, steep price to pay. But it worked out for the Dolphins because who would be your offense if Tyreek wasn't here?
Because the Dolphin offense is 2 things.
Tyreek Hill and the threat of Tyreek Hill. There we go.
There you got to set you up. And the truth is, the Dolphins hadn't gone to the playoffs in back-to-back years in more than 20 years until Tyreek Hill showed up. Correct. So it's impossible to call it like a bad trade for the Dolphins. Yes, 5 draft picks is steep, but still. And no, he's not getting traded this offseason unless I'm severely misreading the room or not reading the situation correct. It makes 0 sense to trade.
I don't think NWI is the guy who's going to replace Tyreek.
Or NWA or NWO or NW. any
that's right. NWO, whoever, right.
Exactly. On that note, we're going to wrap it up. Perk, thanks as always, my man.
Yep.
Guys, please like, subscribe, share, all that good stuff as I'm looking to put on the logo here to signal the end of the show. Again, please like, subscribe, share, all that good stuff. 14.9 is still the number. 15,000 subscribers. I'm going to wear some Dolphin gear for that to commemorate the occasion. Check out the written content at MiamiDolphins on SI.com. Check out Perk's fine work at sunsentinel.com and his deep dive. Perk, when's the next deep dive?
It's going to be sometime this week. Pay attention to social media, probably Thursday.
There you have it. Thanks, everyone. Have a great rest of your day.